may be the greatest catch I've ever seen in my life.
Okay, guys, we are skyrocketing towards 1,000 subscribers right now, so I just want to give y'all a massive thank you for all the support, especially when y'all go down to the comment section. And like I always say, that a lot of y'all watching this video know way more than I do, and I'm going to be completely transparent about that. I'm trying to continue to improve through fantasy baseball, as I'm sure all of y'all are doing at the same time. And the reason we're the fantasy baseball flock is we are all in this together. We are all trying to improve. This is a community here that we are building. So I appreciate it when y'all go down to that comment section and not only help me, but help the other people watching this video. So thank you so far, guys, for all the support. And also, I want to give a massive shout out and a massive thank you to Thrive Fantasy. Now, if you haven't been watching the videos as of late, Thrive Fantasy has decided to partner with us. And if you go down to the comment section, go to the description of the video, go to Thrive Fantasy through that link and use the promo code FLOCK, you actually get a free roll in a $1,000 opening day contest that they are doing on their platform. I mean, they have so many other contests on their platform, and the number one thing that I like about Thrive Fantasy is a lot of these other fantasy platforms, if you actually dive into it, the rate that people are paying is kind of ridiculous. And you look at these contests through Thrive, and I'm like, hey, how are they doing this? Are they making money at all? Or are they just giving away money for free? Which I think they're pretty much doing right now just because they want new users. And if you go use promo code FLOCK, I mean, not only does it help you get a shot with some free money, but I promise you, it really helps the channel. So thank you for everybody who has done that so far. But anyway, let's get into this video. And what we are going to be doing is we are going to be going through some of my favorite outfielder targets to either trade for in your fantasy baseball league right now, or to draft if you have yet to draft. And our first player is going to be someone that was going at the very tippity top of fantasy baseball drafts last offseason. This is going to be Christian Yelich, who, yeah, he's still an early round draft pick. You're still having to spend your late first, early second in a 12-team league on him. His average draft position in high stakes formats currently is 11th overall. He's the 5th outfielder consistently off the board. And here with Christian Yelich, we're just looking at it and going, you know what? This is the ultimate bet on saying 2020 doesn't matter. 2020, you look at that season, and we've talked about this so many times before. Not only is it an extremely small sample size, but to go along with this, a lot of these players didn't even know if they were going to have a season. Remember, guys, Major League Baseball had no idea what they were going to do. This was at the very beginning of the pandemic. So you see some outlier type performances like this, and you go, hey, maybe some of these players weren't ready. Not only were they not ready, the season was so small, they didn't get an opportunity to get on track and get into game shape and make sure that they are going to finish the season as they normally would. So here we're looking at Christian Yelich, and we're looking at his 2020 season of 200 at-bats, a 205 average, a 356 on-base percentage, and a 430 slugging. And we are acknowledging that, yes, that is very bad. You hear those stats, and you go, Mason, you're telling me to spend my first round, second round pick on Christian Yelich? Do you have any idea what you're talking about? And the reason here is, guys, you go, okay, Christian Yelich is 29 years old. There should be no reason that we are expecting him to decline anytime soon. And if we go to the last full year that he had, we go to the last big regular season sample that we had from Christian Yelich. That was in 2019, where he had 489 at-bats. And hold on to your seat, guys, because this is ridiculous. In those 489 at-bats, he had a 329 average, a 429 on-base percentage. Now, this is where it gets ridiculous. A 671 slugging. And not only does he have that 671 slugging, he has 30 stolen bases to go along with this. So we're looking at Christian Yelich going, okay, if we assume that he's anything close to the player that he was in 2019, he should be a top 3 pick in fantasy baseball drafts right now. But, of course, you don't have to spend that pick on him. If you want to instead go with a Mike Trout in the middle of the first, that's completely fine. And just in the leagues where you have an opportunity to draft at the very end of the first round, the very beginning of the second round, that's where you better be pushing the button on Christian Yelich. And if we go right now to his recent projections from RotoChamp, and if y'all haven't watched a video before, this is not an ad at all, but I really like to use the RotoChamp projections because what it looks like they do is they go through and accumulate a bunch of different projection systems all across the internet, and they put him into one number, so it's kind of like ADP for projections. I think it's a really cool tool. But they have him projected for 562 at-bats, a 279 average, a 386 on base percentage, a 530 slugging, and 18 stolen bases. And then you go through and you look at their value system, and they have him ranked as the 11th best player if he hits these projections. And we go, okay, so assuming that he hits a 279 average, a 386 on base percentage, a 530 slugging, then he just meets his ADP. Are we going to be expecting him to surpass this? And you go back to that 2019 season and go, okay, his average was 60 points higher. His on base percentage was about 50 points higher. His slugging was 140 points higher. And go, there's really only upside here. Unless you think that Christian Yelich in 2020 is anything to worry about, I think that Christian Yelich right now in the first round, in the second round, is quite possibly one of the best values you're going to find. But it's easy to talk about those very early round players. Let's go down the draft board a little bit, and let's go down to the pick 50 range, where we are going to be talking about Starling Marte. And yes, I know we bring up this name, and the first thing everybody thinks is Mason, he's playing on the Marlins. You don't want to be drafting someone that's playing on the Marlins. They are not going to be generating that many runs. Starling Marte, when he goes to the plate, he's very rarely going to see runners on base, and when he gets on base, the hitters after him, they're not going to be hitting him in that often. Why are you wanting to draft Starling Marte here? And it's because the price. I mean, he is the 13th outfielder off the board at an ADP of 51, so you're getting him in the beginning of the 5th round in 12-team leagues. And then you go through and you look at that 2019 season where in 539 at-bats, he had a 295 average, a 342 on base percentage, a 503 slugging, and another very important piece to this is 25 stolen bases. So he's pretty much checking every single category for you. And I understand that it's a bad lineup. I understand that he's not going to have a ton of opportunity to drive in runs. But you go to his 2020 stats as well, and I think this is where the value represents stuff on Starling Marte. I think a very similar thing that's happening to Christian Yelich right now is happening to Starling, where a lot of people are just putting way too much of an emphasis on this recent fantasy baseball season that we had, even though I think it's going to be very hard to draw anything from it, because in 2020, he only saw 228 at-bats, a 281 average, a 340 on base percentage, and a 430 slugging. So pretty much across the board, it was significant drop-offs in every category for Starling Marte. But it was a weird year, just like we're saying with Christian Yelich. I think what you want to be doing is you want to be discounting that year. And let's go look at his 2021 projections right now from RotoChamp, where they have him projected for 568 at-bats, a 278 average, a 329 on base percentage, a 440 slugging, and 26 stolen bases. And if he hits these marks, then they're assuming that he's the 38th best player in fantasy baseball. So we are looking at these projections going, you know what? They have him for a worse batting average than he had the past 2 years. They have him for a worse on-base percentage that he had the past 2 years, and a worse slugging percentage than he had in 2019. And he is still supposed to beat his ADP with where he's being drafted. So this is another guy that doesn't really line up for me. I think that Starling Marte is someone that maybe you decide to, it honestly doesn't even matter if you take Christian Yelich at the end of the first. You can still easily take Starling Marte in the beginning of the 5th, because we look at this and we go, you know what? This is a player that checks all boxes. I mean, he is balanced, and you really don't have to worry about anything. All right, so now let's get our last player up here. Very similar trend here. You're going to have a guy that was great in 2019, a poor 2020, but it's going to be Austin Meadows for the Tampa Bay Rays. So he is currently going as the 23rd outfielder off the board at an ADP of 87 overall. And with Austin Meadows, he's only 25 years old currently. So when we go and look at his 2019 season, the last year that we had that large sample, you have to put in some context that, hey, he's only 23 years old in this scenario. And I mean, a lot of people are excited about a Kyle Tucker supposedly taking that next step. Now, at a year younger in age, Austin Meadows actually came out and in 2019 had 530 at-bats, had a 291 average, a 364 on base percentage, and a 558 slugging. So that's a large sample. At 23 years old, he was able to generate those numbers. The stolen bases aren't necessarily going to be great. I mean, at 23 years old, he was only able to steal 12 bags. And then in 2020, I think this is why we are seeing the opportunity to go draft him at a discount, because he only saw 132 at-bats, a 205 average, a 296 on-base percentage, and a 371 slugging. Now, if we go over to 2021 projections, you see that they have him for 478 at-bats, a 257 average, a 329 on-base percentage, and a 473 slugging. So they have him across the board projected for significantly less statistics than what he had at 23 years old. So Austin Meadows, if you also look at the trend line of where he's being drafted in high-stakes leagues, he's been a continuous riser through this offseason. I think that he is someone that you can safely try to grab in, just say, the 9th round of your fantasy baseball draft. I think that would be a great pick. All right, but that's all I got for y'all. I really hope y'all enjoyed this video. I really hope y'all got something from it. Now, if you did, go down there, drop a like, leave a comment telling me whatever I said that was stupid. It really helps me out. It helps out other viewers in this channel. And yeah, subscribe to the channel, and I'll see y'all with the video tomorrow.